To say I got my butt kicked on this door is an understatement. On the bright side, I have learned a lot from my butt kicking. Let me show you. Well, once again, a day off means I can get stuff done on the rig and work on a project that has been going on since day one, pretty much. And that is the inside of the bay doors. I'm gonna wire up the actuators. I'm actually going to get the shell put on. I'll run wires all the way out to here so I can run them up into the controls that are inside here, and get the doors sealed. And then the last thing I have to do for the doors is actually get my pistons put on. That might take a little bit to figure out, but I'm excited because for the first time since I started cutting these doors apart, I don't even know what it's been, 2+ years, maybe more. Might be 3 years now, 2.5 years. These have been in storage, and there are all my door shells in their glory. I'm hoping I can clean these up a little bit, maybe sand them or whatever, but I am hoping to get these things wired and the shells on and put together in the next couple days. So that's what's going on today, guys. Stay tuned. When I got these bay doors 4 years ago, almost exactly, out of the salvage yard, I made sure I got them off of a high-end Class A coach. And the reason being is they were well built. They had heavy-duty hinges compared to a lot of them out there. The latches were pretty stout, and they had an electric latching locking mechanism. Let me show you. So obviously bay door, modified countless times, and they have these electric actuators on them that are 12 volt. Basically all it is positive goes to one side, pushes it one way, positive goes the other side, pushes it the other way. And they've been on here since I've had the doors on here, and I have not wired them. I have wires coming in for my locks, and what I'll do is I'll just run a wire through here, plumb it out here, and then loop it out and then tie it back to this. Well, that being said, I have 7 bay doors. I only had 6 of those actuators, so I ordered a couple more because I'm going to need some for the cab doors, because I'm trying to get all of this on a keypad system and a key fob where I can hit one button and everything locks. Well, everything but the main door to the coach. And I never planned on putting an actuator in here, and after a little modification, I was able to get this guy in here, and I'm able to get this pin so that it will actually lock this guy when I get 12 volts to it. Now the problem is, as you can see, that thing is pretty well finished, and I have this access panel for all the hardware of the door, and by some small miracle I was able to drill a hole here, and then there's actually a beam right here. I was able to get a drill bit from here to here and eyeball it, and then drill through my insulation and actually get a tube, which you guys can see, that irrigation tubing I'm using for my 12 volt runs all the way to here. And then what I did is I punched a hole, and I knew there's a 2-inch steel frame on this whole thing, so I punched a hole here, ran a fish down to this hole. So I've actually picked up my wires on the fish. I'm going to tape these guys together and pull them through. Obviously have a loop that is covered from here to here. This door will have not only electric locks, but I'll be able to put electric lights in here as well, which I'm pretty excited about. So that's where I'm at. So you can see I was able to get 2 of my 16 gauge, it's actually 16.2 marine grade wire in my blue lock pipe, which actually goes all the way through the frame here to protect this, and it goes through this edge of the frame inside here to protect this as well. And then obviously up here I've got a grommet that is recessed all the way in instead of just sitting on the outside, because I wanted to make sure I caught the metal edge on the inside with this. So now I will loop this up into the other one and cover this with a God, I can't remember what that black stuff is with the slice in it. I'll remember in a second. Cover that up and feed the wires into the electrical area and be pretty well done with that. This is going to allow me to run the actuator with all the other locks on the rig, which is awesome. I'll be able to set up a light probably up in here above the door handle to light this, because at night that's really hard to find. And then I'll probably put another small one down here to light the stairs there and to light the stairs as the door opens. Haven't really thought about it, because had I thought about it, I would have put these sleeves in and chases in before I finish the door. But nonetheless, it's in little bits at a time. If I have to do one door a day, it's only gonna take me a week to get these done, so onward and upward. Alrighty then, process continues. So basically what I have done, I have to take this guy off to pin the panel down. So I pulled that off, weaved it through the hole, and on the back side, you can see I've used a little El Duque tape to hold the wire in and strung it through, and obviously this will sit like that. I've sanded this thing down about the best I can. I might hit it again, but it's way better than that worn out POS with the numbers painted on it and different colors and everything else. So moving forward, little by little, I'm gonna pin this up. I'm actually gonna glue the back side of it with a little Sikaflex, and then rivet this thing in place and hope it works. Oh, the carnage. I have all this stuff, 2 tables full of little debris, and then this mess just to get that together. However, it is together, and I may tweak a couple of things here and there, but for the most part, I will probably have to replace these guys with newer ones. These little suckers on some of them, these little springs that hold the ball in, are either shot or whatever. So for now though, I can kind of see how to mount this, and it works fairly well. Obviously the shock is there to assist in opening the door, which is kind of nice. Once you get to about that point, it just slams up and that's it. So it's also set so it doesn't hit the slide out, obviously. So yeah, 1 down, 6 to go, and this thing took me a while to get together. Obviously going through the first one takes a little time to kind of figure things out, but all in all, pretty happy with it, and I'm gonna get going on the rest of them. These gas shocks may not appear like they do a whole lot other than swing the door open. The biggest thing is they hold this thing open from the wind slamming it shut while I'm in the bay. And you don't really think about these things until the door smacks you in the head a half a dozen times, because you're trying to push it with one hand, pull the crap out anyway. That's the big reason for the pistons on the doors, is really to hold them open and force them open. So there you go. All right, one more quick note. So obviously door is not done yet. Wanted to point out that they've got these mounting holes here for a cover that covers that, much like this. And they have these little self-tapping screws, and obviously they're not stainless steel because they rust out. So in order to improve things, what I did is actually tap these guys out and thread them, and then put a stainless steel bolt, I guess, number 8, 32 thread, 832, in there, so it'll hopefully hold a bit better. I'm not really sure if the self-tapping screws came out or not, but I'm real big on putting Loctite on threads and making sure stuff stays put. So, and these are stainless and it's just cleaner. So there's that. All right, a quick bay door update. They are kicking my ass. Yeah, I forgot how long this little stuff takes, and I figured I'd be done by now. I've got about a day into this, and it's just a struggle. Let me show you. The first one is done, and it's turned out pretty well, and obviously it works great. So what I did for the wiring is, if you remember, I basically ran my 16.2 from the door lock through the insulation up and out through the grommet. And then the next thing I did was take this Alex Tech, I think it is, loom, and this is you can see it's pretty soft and flexible, pliable, and it's pretty cool because, see, black on black probably doesn't help. You can open this up and it wraps, once you get your wires in there, it wraps around them, and it's got a little spring to it, and it'll wrap around the wires when you're done, and it is far more comfortable than this stuff, which I don't dare stick my finger in. This is plastic wire loom. This stuff is so stiff, especially when it's cold. So most of the rig has this under the chassis. Now that I'm getting into the doors, I have a couple options. I can use a rubber boot, which I have coming, but I think I'm gonna dig this pliable little loom. This is a 1/2-inch loom. So what I've done is, where the wires came out, I've connected to this Deutsch connector, which is pretty slick. Obviously it's waterproof, dirt proof. Obviously just pick that up and pull it out, and you've got the waterproof boot that seals on the inside of that thing. It's pretty slick. So I've decided to install these, and what I did is I ran my wires up and threw one of these guys on. There is my Deutsch connector, and obviously that's where it ties into the wires going back to the rest of the bay doors. And all I have to do is disconnect this guy here and disconnect the Deutsch connector to pull my door off. And that is why I'm using these guys. If I ever have to service the door for whatever reason, I can pull it off without cutting wires and shortening wires and redoing it and whatever else. So this is super simple and pretty easy to test. If my locks aren't working, I can test power at these things without having to cut into the wires. So that is door number 1, pretty well wrapped up. I'm pretty happy with this stuff. We'll see how it kind of works out. I think I'm gonna like that better than the rubber boot. I've got a rubber boot coming, but I am pretty happy with this stuff, so I'm pretty sure I'm gonna proceed with the rest of the doors with the same stuff. Obviously, the nice thing about this is the rubber boot, I've got to shove the wires in the boot. This stuff, I can actually just wrap around the wires as they come out, and it makes things a bit easier. So bay number 1 done. So what am I struggling with? Honestly, it's the attachment point for these pistons, and I'm trying to get the piston to sit level. This one's a hair high, that one's a bit low, but by design. So I actually ended up trying to put the piston here, then I put it here, and what ended up happening is it was so far out on the door that when it closed, it wouldn't close all the way because this point would basically stop short before it closed. So I had to move it to here, and my aluminum doesn't start until right about here, and I'll show you that on the other door. This one has a bit more aluminum, but most of them have a piece of aluminum across here and down for support for that that gas shock. This one I can probably put pretty much anywhere, but I have to be careful when I run the wires through here that I'm not drilling through where the wires are. So I'm taking measurements, documenting what I've got, and making sure like hell I don't drill through the wires, because if I do, I have to pull all the rivets out, and I've since put adhesive on this to kind of tighten things up. And that means I have to scrape the adhesive off and peel the door off. And this door, for some reason, the shell, I had to shim the shell out with some 16 gauge, because when the door lock mechanism plate was tightened down, the shell pushed on something in here, and this lock right here wouldn't shut all the way. It would do like a single close, not a double. It's got like a double latch, so there's one, there's two, and it wouldn't do that second click to get the door to secure. So I have been fighting with these things, trying to figure this stuff out. Obviously, never doing this before and not having a whole lot of luck finding videos online how to do this. I'm struggling. So I am finally moving. The first door is done. I'm gonna finish the second door here in a second and see how many more I can get done today. Hopefully I get half of these done, and I'll do the rest tomorrow. So I said I am done with this first bay door, and I lied. There is probably a solid 3/16 inch of a gap there. and it rolls to probably just under an 1/8 here. That's one issue that I'm gonna fix. And two, you may or may not be able to see it. This gasket here is pretty well flattened, and as it comes down to this end, the bulb is still pretty well intact. And that's the case up in the top too. Like I said, these doors have just kicked my butt. And that was one of the things on the second door I was working on. It wouldn't latch quite right, and it took me a minute to figure out that it's pushing here so hard first that I was having a hard time sealing on this and grabbing this because it was pressuring this little corner so much. So I'm gonna kick the bottom of the hinge that way to lower this end of the door. I'm gonna get rid of these tech screws because these heads have a tendency to break off over time. And I'm also going to put a shim behind the whole hinge to get it to come out this way so that the face of the door sits perfectly flat against this whole thing so it seals better. So they're gonna take me a little longer than I thought, but I figured since I'm here messing with them, I might as well get them done and done right. So when I close them for the last time, they're done. So a few things I changed. I added a flange right here. This, I probably can see the edge of it. This aluminum flange, it's just 1/8 inch by 2 inch, and that was to push the hinge out. The other thing I did was I tapped 1/4 inch bolts to adjust the door so I could hang it and adjust it, and that worked really well. And then I put the rivets in versus the tech screws. And then on this side, same thing, 1/4 inch bolts and then rivets all the way up. The gap has been fixed. I've got a pretty consistent gap, and that's the other thing I figured out is I set the door and I set it nice and even, and when I closed it, it still rubbed up here. And that was because the piston tweaked the door just enough. And there is apparently enough play in the door someplace, I think in the hinge, that it moved about 1/8 of an inch. So in the end, I'm pretty happy with the way this thing kind of worked out. I still have to, like I said, adjust this. It's got to come out about 1/4 inch to be able to get this to latch on the second click. But it seals really well. It seals even. The piston and everything else works great. I'm super happy with it. So now I've got 6 more to go. So this one hopefully was on a huge learning curve. It took me about a better part of half a day to a day to kind of get it done. I'm hoping the rest go a bit quicker. So here I am, day 3. So finally I have the bay doors on this side of the coach done. Let's take a look. First of all, I have to say probably the most frustrating thing is looking at these and it doesn't look like I did anything because they look exactly the same as the ones on this side. Same. However, there is a stark difference on the inside. Well, 3 days of hard work and there it is, guys. The bay doors are obviously finished. The shells are on. The covers are on the locks. Obviously they're wired. The wire looms are done. The pistons are done. I actually got this guy done, I think, in that 3 days, so that's not so bad. And buttoned up my wiring. This stuff was like a rat's nest in here for my leveling system. But yeah, pretty happy with the way they turned out. I'm not sure I could ask for more from these doors for recycling them off of a trashed or gutted Class A. This is one of the few things that were left on the Class A that I pulled them off of. So after cutting them down, flipping them around, re-welding them, remaking them, they're on, they work, and I'm pretty stinking happy with them. And they look like real doors. So there it is, guys. Bay doors are on one side. I figured I'd make the video and put it together because it's going to take me another week the way things are going to get the other side done. So I want to get the video together, show you guys what I've done, and the other side will be just like this and probably just as frustrating. However, I have to say it is getting a bit easier as I go through these doors to get them kind of built and installed. So I guess I can't complain. Now that I have these in, and obviously I could open them, I have my lead coming up here. And if I go in here and touch my battery terminals, I know it's the little things in life, but that makes the last 3 days seem worth it. Anyway, it's the simple things.